Let's talk about tools that won't help you perform a gentle brush out or tangle and mat removal on your doggy, and why. The first thing what comes to mind is when people pick a dense brush instead of a sparse one. Given that they have crazy amount of pins on a given surface, they're gonna get stuck in the coat, so it's not gonna be loved by doggies. You're gonna see sensitivity signs, and they're gonna try to leave the grooming session. In case you go with a sparse one, your doggy will love you for that. Another thing is the angle of the brush. You want the brush, the pins of the brush to be 150 degree here. 150 degree, let me angle, 150 degree. So whenever it comes to tangles and mats getting around the tips or in there, the brush will be able to wiggle away. In case the brush, the tip of the pins on the brush are less than that, like 90 degrees here, like 90 degrees. Whenever that happens and the tangles and mats come here, and they will try to move the pins, but since the 90 degrees just gonna move up a little bit more because they won't bend all over the place, or the doggy will feel sensations because it's so much pulling there, then it gets stuck in the coat with the 90 degree angle on the tip, and the doggy will experience pulling sensation because it just won't glide through and open up the tangles and mats. So from gentle and comfort perspective, that 950 degree comparing to less than that, like 90 degrees, will be a huge advantage in case you go with 150 and you skip the 90 degree. You can open up the pins on the brush with a plier or with your fingers. It takes for like 10 minutes to do it, and that's going to give you a huge advantage, and your doggy will be way more cooperative. Another thing I want to talk about comfort for brushing is the angle of the head of the brush. You want to go with a rounded head, because in case you are using a flat one, then you are working on all of the surface. Every single pin will get on the doggy's coat in the same depth. However, in case you're using a brush with an angled head, then it's gonna get on the skin differently. If you take a look at how many pins are touching my skin, I see one line, and the other one is very close to my skin, but the other ones are way further away from my skin, so your doggy will experience way less sensation on the skin whenever you're using an angled one. Now let's take a look at all of this in separate sessions. If you are using a brush that has flat head with crazy amount of pins on a given surface, then your doggy will go wild. Even will go wild in case you are using a brush which has a curved head, but they have crazy amount of pins, so they are dense. So all of these tiny things add on to comfort or discomfort for your doodle and you for brushing. Another tool I don't really like is the brushes where the head is supposed to be flexible. And the reason why I don't like it is because they have crazy amount of pins, and you're not gonna be able, they are flat, and since they move away, you're not going to be able to tell whether you went deep enough or it was just moving away. Oftentimes, then they are not flexible enough that they're going to do anything on the coat. And I'm even talking about the $90 price range type of slickers, the flexible slickers. So I highly recommend you to get this one, because the big K from Chris Christensen, because this is the one that will keep your doggy comfortable and the brushing part effective, so you can get done faster and more comfortably for all participants. A tool that I don't really recommend except for specific situations when you don't have a pair of shears around. So this is the dematting rake. You can get dematting rakes and dematting combs. They are like this with super sharp little teeth that will cut through the coat. These are incredibly uncomfortable in case you are using them on the body when the length of the hair is not equipped with a safety grip between the skin and the mat. So in case you stick it to the skin and just pull it, it will cause direct pulling on the skin, and your doggy will not like you for that. Let me put it that mildly. So in case you can get a safety grip between the skin and the mat, and then you are using it on the doggy that way, it can work, especially on the tail area where the hair is longer, and there is a mat here, and then you can get a safety grip so you can work on that specific mat gently. But in my opinion, you're gonna be way better off if you're using pre-haircut shears in those cases with very similar technique, like you get a good grip between the skin and the mat there, and you cut in the coat. Or you won't even need, on the tail situation, you won't even need to get a safety grip. Just get the shear in between the skin and the mat and cut in the bunch a few times, and with the hair length, so it's not going to be diagonal, so you're not going to cut off of the length. It's going to be a little thinner with this technique, so will be with this one. However, there is a quality difference between the cut that these tools do and this tool does. And the difference is this will leave the hair, the edge, the cut line will leave the coat prone to mats. This guy, on the other hand, whenever you're cutting on the doggy's hair, this will help you keep the hair tangled and mat free because of the way it cuts the coat. And it's just gonna be so much easier to deal with it. So I'm not recommending getting a dematting rake or dematting comb. I highly recommend though to get a pre-haircut shear. This one exactly, specifically, we talked about why, and that's going to be way more handy for you to removing tangles and mats the gentle way.